Hello and welcome back to the channel, and welcome to the beginning of a brand new walking series that begins right here on the Cumbrian coast. I am in the village of St Bees, and of course this is the Wainwrights coast to coast walk. So this route is 192 miles that begins at St Bees Head and ends at Robin Hood's Bay on the Yorkshire coast. And as tradition, I have selected my pebble from the beach and dipped my toes in as well. And this first day is 14.5 miles that ends at Ennerdale Bridge. And where I'm heading now is up onto St Bees Head, and I'm going to enjoy some of these fantastic coastal views. So we are right up on the cliff tops at the moment, only sort of 3/4 of a mile in, and the view is just stunning. Let me show you in this direction, which is the way we're going. Look along the coast here. That's St Bees Lighthouse right over in the distance, probably 2 miles away. We're going to head round that later, but we must be probably 200 or 300 feet up now above the crashing waves. And we're right by what I think is some kind of World War II lookout station or something like that. There's a few bits of rubble here which has probably come off the top, another large chunk here, and a few bits further down the cliff. So I imagine this was a lookout, and inside there's actually a couple of plaques that show what you can see from here. If I go round in this direction, apparently you can see the Isle of Man. Now it's really hazy, but I think I can see the Isle of Man out there just about. Hopefully it'll clear a bit later. And then this direction, I should be able to see Scarfell Pike, and if it was clear, about 16 miles away. And then up this way, Scotland, about 25 miles away in that direction. So we're just at Fellswick Bay, and I can see down to the sea just over here, and at this point you pretty much get down to sea level before having to go back up about another 100 metres. But Wainwright does recommend you actually go and have a little look if the tide's out, but at the moment it's really far in, and there's some really interesting rock formations in there, and I know it's quite a popular bouldering place as well. So sitting just 150 yards from the trail is the lovely white St Bees lighthouse, which is just up there. I can see the top. Now this building dates to 1866, but it's been known there's a lighthouse on the site here since 1717. And apparently you can see the light for 25 miles out to sea.
We've just entered the village of Mowbray, and the original route would have gone through the village, but now the route's actually been diverted onto this. This is the line of the old railway that used to service all the industries in the area. This is going to be followed for about a mile until the other side of Mowbray, where we'll come off and then follow some footpaths over to Cleater, and there I'm going to stop at the shop and get something to eat because I'm getting pretty hungry. So we just arrived in Cleator and I had to come and see this lovely historic building. This is the Church of St Leonard and it's a Grade 2 listed building that on the outside looks relatively modern. I think it was built around 1860, somewhere around there, but the core of the chancel is actually 12th century, so clearly this building replaced a much older church on the site. It's absolutely lovely, built of the classic red sandstone of the area. So we've made it to the summit of our first peak. This is the top of Dent and there's a cairn just behind me here. The true summit at 352 metres is just a few hundred metres actually over there. Heading that way in just a moment, but I thought I'd stop here because the view is a lot better, I think. There's a nice big shelter as well, so if the weather is bad, got some protection. But the view, not a good day, is normally exceptional. Today it's a bit hazy. I can make out some of the Cumbrian coast down there. It's the south coast, and this is Sellafield, the world's first nuclear power station. And then if I pan round, I would imagine this large town down here is probably Egremont, and continue round the very end here. You can see a little kind of cleft. It's just, that is the cliffs just above St Bees, so that is where we started, and we followed the path all the way around St Bees Head before coming through Mowbray and Cleator just down here and then up the steep side of the fell. Now just a little note for anyone who is doing this walk, there's a permissive path down here which goes through a farm and that's all been closed off. There's signs up saying sort of no trespassing, etc, and we actually just had to make our way to the road a different way, so parts of the trail have actually been closed down there. I don't know why. Real shame. And then looking this way to the east, this is, of course, the view to the Lakeland Fells. I can see just down to Ennerdale Bridge, the end of today, which will be down in a couple of hours' time. But for now, I'm heading over this little summit here, down into the valley of Nannycatch, and then over towards Kinneyside Stone Circle for a little view of an ancient, potentially ancient remains. But let's go have a little look. We made it down off the steep slopes of Dent, so just be careful. That slope on the way down is quite treacherous if it's wet. Thankfully right now it's dry, so we made it off quite safely. And I'm in the valley of Nannycatch, and this marks the entrance to the Lake District National Park, the first on the coast to coast. And I'm going to follow this for just over a kilometre before heading up the steep valley side up to Kinneyside Stone Circle. So we are now entering the village of Ennerdale Bridge, which marks the end of this part of the trail. So if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit like, hit subscribe, and also ring the bell to keep up to date with future uploads. And I'll see you in part 2. Hello and welcome back to the channel, and welcome back to the Coast to Coast, where I'm on day 2, which began at Ennerdale Bridge, which is about half a mile behind me, and it's going to lead me along the entire valley of Ennerdale right up to Blacksale Youth Hostel, where I'm then going to take a short, sharp ascent up the fell side and then descend down to Honister and finish my day in the beautiful Borrowdale Valley. About 14.5 miles today, and unfortunately the weather has taken a turn for the worst. You can see it's quite drizzly. Forecast is for rain near enough all day, but a bit of discrepancy as to how much rain's actually going to fall. Tomorrow and the next day look far worse, so I'm going to make the most of these views today. So we are down on the shores of Ennerdale Water now, and I've just managed to find an area tucked out of the wind. The wind's blowing right down the lake, but we've entered the area known as Angler's Crag, and this lovely big bit of rock over here is Angler's Crag itself. And I can see fells on the other side, so the rounded dome kind of summit over there is Starling Dodd, and then this is Great Bourne and Herdus, and then the small fell in front is Bowness Knot. So we're going to follow the lake shore now for about 2 miles, where we'll then join a trackway that leads us right down the full length of Ennerdale. So we're up onto the main track that takes you right down to the end of Ennerdale, and we just passed High Gillerthwaite Youth Hostel, and sadly the weather's changed again. We had a lovely spell of about an hour, with maybe more, hour and a half, with no rain whatsoever, and you can see on the other side of the valley it's a very fine kind of misty rain coming in. We can't see any of the mountains at the end, so I imagine it's going to be sticking around for a little while, but we're going to follow this track for about 4 kilometres, 4.5 kilometres, until we get to Blacksail Youth Hostel. We've got about 2 kilometres until we get to Blacksail Youth Hostel, and loads of the trees have all been cleared along this section, so it's lovely to actually get some views. And even though it's still raining at the moment, I can see Pillar Rock right up there, just poking through the mist. It looks absolutely incredible. I'm just hoping that some of this rain and drizzle is just going to fizzle out and allow us to have some better views again. So we've arrived here at Blacksail Youth Hostel. We've done about 9-ish miles, 9.5 miles today so far. You can stay overnight here. We haven't booked anywhere and it's not open, so we're obviously going to continue over to Loftbeck. So Loftbeck's over that way. We're going to be heading up and down towards Honister, and then on a clear day, if it wasn't so murky, you would actually have a wonderful view looking up the valley towards Great Gable up there. This great mass is Kirkfell, and then the ridge here is up on Lookingstead, and then up to Pillar, and then of course down Ennerdale, where we've just come from. We're almost at the highest point for today, and the view looking back across to Ennerdale Water over there. We followed the full length of that and the full length of Ennerdale Valley as well, and then in this direction I can see Crummock Water just snaking its way over there. To the left is Mowbray, and then to the right is Ranadale Knots. And this awesome peak over here, this is Haystacks, and then just the other side of the cloud over there is Fleetwith Pike. So we're going to head up this path and then down to Honister.
So where we are at the moment is a place called Drum House, and as you can see there used to be a tram line along here, and then this building would have housed some kind of device to have lowered the slate from the quarries up here down to Honister Mine. Well, as you can tell, it is getting very late. We've probably only got half an hour or 40 minutes of daylight left, but we are only a couple of 100 meters away from the village of Rosthwaite, and it's been, yeah, about 14.5, 15 miles today. Way better than I thought it was going to be because the weather has been being very kind to us. So the original forecast was for rain all day, and as you saw, we had some showers but some gorgeous views as well. So if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit like, hit subscribe, and also ring the bell to keep up to date with future uploads, and I'll see you in part 3. Hello, welcome back to the channel and welcome to part 3 of my coast to coast walk, where I began in the village of Rosthwaite and today I'm ending in Grasmere. So it's only a short day of about 9 miles or so, and as you can see I've got the wet weather gear on already because overnight it has been torrential rain. Like, look at the river alongside me here. It is close to bursting its banks. It is flowing incredibly fast, and unfortunately the day is just set to rain near enough all day. It's actually 12:30. I've waited until kind of a last minute before starting this section, and yeah, I'm a little bit gutted. Hopefully it will clear a bit. There are mixed forecasts. Some say it's actually going to clear in about an hour, some say it's just going to rain all day, so we'll see. But if it does clear, I'm debating whether or not to do the ridge walk down to Helm Crag. If it doesn't clear, it'll be wading through the river through Far Easdale, but we'll see when we get there. So just down here is the waterfall called Gallany Force, and on a normal day I would say have a little detour and have a look, but today after so much rain it's just going to be a raging torrent. But the fells that I can see from here, behind the tree up there is Eagle Crag, to the right I can see Sergeant Crag, on this side I got Rosthwaite Fell, Great Crag up here, and then dead in front of me I can see the large mass of Ulsgarth. So we're on the summit of Lining Crag, which overlooks the impressive Greenup Gill that we've just followed the whole way. You can see the river snaking its way along over there, and we've had to do 7 river crossings just to get here. The flooding is horrific. Literally one of them was about 30 feet wide and it was almost impossible. It was like 99% chance we wouldn't be able to cross. So very happy, and I can see the way we've got to go, which is up here. Greenup Edge is just up there, and unlike the name would suggest, it's not an edge, it's a bit of a flat plateau that's then going to take us down towards Easdale. So where I am at the moment is the very top of the valley of Greenburn, and as you probably saw, there's a brand new footpath across Greenup Edge, and historically that was a very difficult and arduous section to actually cross because it was full of bogs and no real footpath to follow, but now it's far easier. And where I am, I say the top of Greenburn, that's this valley here. Now Wainwright mentions this valley as you want to make sure you don't follow it. You need to contour round and go around this little knoll over here. That'll take you down into far Easdale and down towards Grasmere. And again, in poor weather that can be very, very difficult to navigate, but I think it looks like there's a brand new path making it much easier for us coast to coasters. So we've arrived at Stithwaite Steps. So that bridge there is the crossing of Easdale Beck, and there used to be a load of stepping stones there, but that was replaced some time ago with this footbridge. That marks our final little descent down into Grasmere. So we've got about 1 kilometre until we join the road, and then about another kilometre before we arrive in the village centre. So we've made it down to the valley floor, and I've just jumped up on the side of the path to have a look across to Sour Milk Gill, and look at that. The amount of water that is flowing down that beck is insane. We're about 20 minutes or so away from Grasmere now. So we're just coming into Grasmere now, and it's been an absolutely gorgeous walk, although very wet to start with. The views have been really impressive right up till the end, and even now, although the fells are shrouded in mist, I can still see Stone Arthur just over here, a nice little rocky outcrop. This is Helm Crag behind me. If I look back, I can see the whole of Easdale, and then this is Sour Milk Gill, the waterfall. Oh, it's been absolutely stunning day. If you've enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit like, hit subscribe, and also ring the bell to keep up to date with future uploads, and I will see you in part 4. Hello and welcome back to the channel, and welcome back to the Lake District, where I'm on day 4 of my coast to coast walk, and I've just left the village of Grasmere, and I've got a lovely view back to Helm Crag up here. Now the coast to coast does normally follow over the fell top, but because previous day's walking was such bad weather, we didn't do that. We followed Easdale, but today it's really warm. I've actually started quite late. It's, I think, nearly 4 o'clock in the afternoon. So we think maybe 3.5 hours just to get over to Patterdale. I think it's about 12 kilometres, something like that. Nice to break this section up over 2 days. And then we're camping down at Glenridding, and tomorrow is a big day. 16 or so miles tomorrow over the highest point. Really excited because the weather is meant to be really good for the next 4 days. So as I'm getting a bit of height, you can hear me, I'm quite out of breath, but this is Greenburn over here. You can see a few of the waterfalls down in the valley, and then Steel Fell up here, and a bit of Gibson Knot just there as well.
So we've just stopped for a moment to enjoy the view looking back down towards Grasmere. Now the fells, this is Silver Howe directly in front of me, and then over here is Helm Crag, and I can see the Howitzer, which is the true summit at 405 metres, and I'm looking down at it, so I must be at around 500 here. Maybe slightly less, 480, something like that, so maybe another 100 metres to go up. And it's pretty hard work going up this path. It's relentless, not so steep that you get really exhausted, but steep enough to make you puff. So very soon I'm going to be going over the little col between Seat Sandal, which is this enormous mountain on my left, and Fairfield, and that col just sits below 600 metres. I think it's about 580. And then over there is Grisdale Tarn. I think we're going to sit down there for 10 or 15 minutes and enjoy the view of that lovely, lovely tarn. So we're a couple of hours in today, and the col over towards Grisdale Tarn is just round the corner here, and I've got a lovely view down to this waterfall here. It's not named, but it is a beautiful waterfall, especially when seen from the path down there. Gorgeous, gorgeous evening light. I reckon we'll be up and over at the tarn in about another 20 minutes, and then we're going to sit there for a little bit just to enjoy the view. So we're down here now at Grisdale Tarn, and this body of water sits at about 550 metres above sea level, and keen eyes can see some wild campers over there, and there's actually a few more just at the other end of the tarn here, and there's a lovely view up to St Sunday Crag over here. This is Fairfield up to my right, and then Dollywagon Pike there, 858 metres, with a very popular zigzag path up there, because just behind is Nethermost Pike at 891 metres, and then behind that Helvellyn at 950 metres, so the third highest summit in the Lake District, so really popular way either up or down there. But we're going to go and sit by the tarn just for a few minutes, have a snack, have a drink, enjoy this evening light. I think it's about 20 past 5 now, so we've still got like 4 or 5 hours of daylight left, but we'll be down in a couple of hours from here. We didn't spend too long
up at Grisdale Tarn, because sadly, of all the wild campers, there was a big group of Duke of Edinburgh making a lot of noise, so decided to head down. Just over here, I can make out the Brothers Parting Stone. There's actually a big plaque there as well, and I think that is where William Wordsworth last saw his brother before they parted ways, hence the name, the Brothers Parting Stone. And it's here that we begin our descent down Grisdale. We're going to go down to Ruthwaite Lodge, which is a climbing hut, and then down the full length of Grisdale right over to Patterdale. And we've only done 4.5 kilometres up to here, and it's taken us a few hours to get here, purely because it's all uphill. Now that we're going downhill, I reckon we'll cover the same distance relatively quickly. We are now doing the last few hundred metres down into Patterdale, and this walk has been absolutely stunning. The views across to Allswater just a few minutes ago were some of the best I've ever seen of the lake, and then with the sun setting behind Nethermost Pike and Dollywagon Pike was just absolutely fantastic. Now, of course, if you've enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit like, hit subscribe, and also ring the bell to keep up to date with future uploads, and I'll see you in part 5. Hello, welcome back to the channel and welcome back to the coast to coast walk where I'm on day 5, which began down in Patterdale, which is just down here, and it's going to end at Shap. I've got a full 16 miles, including the highest point on the entire coast to coast to do today. And it is a beautiful day. Look across the valley here over towards the mighty peak of Helvellyn and the very start of Striding Edge over there. Absolutely gorgeous. Where I'm going now though is along this diagonal path, gaining about 200 metres of ascent up to Bordale Hawes, and that's where the path kind of levels out a little bit around Angletarn, and then I'm heading up to Kidstee Pike, so the highest point on the entire coast to coast. I think it's 780 metres above sea level, and it is a very busy morning. I can see lots and lots of people about. It's a Saturday and it's half term at the moment, so yes, very busy in the lakes. Well, it's been very steady going as we've made it up to Bordale Hawes. The valley down on the right over there is the Valley of Bordale, and actually you can't see it at the moment, but just the other side of this little crag, almost where those people are walking, there used to be a chapel there called the Chapel in the Hawes, and it would have been for people who lived down in probably Martindale and Bordale down this valley. They would have hiked up to this little col here and worshipped and then head back down, and I guess people from Patterdale would have done the same until there were churches built in both of those valleys, which meant the little chapel here became redundant. But still a bit more up to go, but soon we'll be at Angletarn and it's a bit flatter there. I want to enjoy some really nice views across the eastern Vales. So we're now up here at Angletarn, and that is this glorious body of water, and the view across this natural shelf right over to Helvellyn and St Sunday Crag, Nethermost Pike over there, all absolutely stunning. And it is really nice here, and it's a really popular wild camping spot, but sadly there's quite a few illegal campers today, because wild camping, the rule is you pitch late and you leave early, and it's probably like 11 o'clock in the morning now, and I can see 2 tents there, 1 tent there, and 2 or 3 tents up there as well, which really gives proper wild camping a bad name, because they are not doing what they're supposed to do. But here we're going to continue this very gentle ascent now up towards Kidsty Pike.
So we're up really high in the mountains now. I've got a cracking view back to High Street behind me, and I'm on the Roman road just for a moment. And over to my right, I've got a view down the whole of Riggindale, all the way to Haweswater, and then of course the pointed peak there is Kidsty Pike, and that is the highest point on the entire coast to coast, and that is where we're going to stop and have some lunch. So we're here now on the summit of Kidsty Pike, which is the highest point on the entire coast to coast. The summit being just behind me here. And I'm just enjoying the view, looking right down Riggindale, all the way to Haweswater over there. And in the sun over here is High Street and Mardale Ilbel just over there. We've just had some lunch, cooked a nice meal, and we've been here for about half an hour, so we're going to start heading down towards Haweswater, which we're then going to follow the entire length towards the Eden Valley. Oh, look at all these midgies. We are down finally off the hillside. Actually, that was a really, really steep descent. And this, I believe these walls formed part of what was Riggindale Farm. And the farm would have been just slightly further down, I think, now submerged by the water, because the lake water level is a lot higher than it used to be when they built the dam at the other end. But the view from down here is so tranquil and beautiful. Oh. So I believe this peak up here, that is Brandstree, and then Sellside Pike is over there. And then this is the great ridge I think it's called Rough Crag. Goes up towards High Street, which is in the sunshine at the back over there. So we're going to follow this for about 3.5 miles all the way to the dam, and I think there's going to be some waterfalls midway called the Forces, which we'll stop at and have a little look. And then about another 3 or so miles beyond that to Shap. So as we're heading along the shores of Hillwalker, there's actually a nice historic tree just up on top of this crag. It's actually the site of an Iron Age hill fort. And just having a little look, not going up there, but having a little look, you can see the ruined wall, which would have been an outer perimeter, and a big bank and ditch to protect anyone living inside. We have just passed the Forces waterfall, so it's a series of waterfalls that cascades down the hillside towards Hillwalker. But sadly, from the path, you can't really see them very well. You can hear them, but there's a lot of tree coverage, a lot of foliage, so it's difficult to see them. But we sat there out of the sun just to enjoy a bit more food and drink, try and rehydrate. It is so warm at the moment. Easily 24 in the sun. Making this very hard work. And we've only done 16 kilometres today. Actually feels a little bit depressing. It feels like we've done way more than that. So we've got at least another 5 or 5.5 miles left to go today. And it's already 4:45. Anyone doing this day, just be aware, it's a very hard day. So just through the trees over there is the Hillwalker Dam, and it marks our final few miles within the Lake District National Park, and it has been absolutely breathtaking. But there's lots of new places to explore further ahead, including the Eden Valley, which I'm very excited to explore and see all of the ancient history. Oh.
Well, we are coming close to the end of the day, but just over here is Shap Abbey. You can see the ruins of the church there, and that church dates to 1199. That's when the abbey was founded, and it was dissolved in 1540 during the dissolution of the monasteries. I'm under the impression it was the last abbey ever to be deconstructed. But it's really, really nice. I don't think we've got time to go and have a little look today, but it does look absolutely beautiful in this evening sunshine. We've got 1 mile left to say uphill into Shap. So we are very close to Shap now, only half a mile or so away, and we've actually just crossing or going alongside this field, but the view back, I can't see it from here, but just a second ago I could see Kidsty Pike and it looked absolutely miles and miles away. And to think that we started 5 miles the other side of it, it really, really emphasises how much ground you can cover in a single day. And we're hitting about 25 kilometres now. And to be honest, I was knackered at about 15 today, so I'm quite proud of myself. Continuing on, if I look to my left I can see the train actually just over there that goes through Shap. Anyway, if you have enjoyed this video, please do hit like, hit subscribe, and also just ring the bell to keep up to date with future uploads, and I'll see you in part 6. Hello and welcome back to the channel, and welcome to day 6 of the Coast to Coast, where I'm on the edge of the Eden Valley, and I've just left the village of Shap behind me. Actually, if I look back from here, the pointer peak right over in the distance, that's Kidsty Pike. I was there yesterday and that looks so far away. But today is a 20-mile long day that ends at Kirby Stephen, and it follows a path right through the full length of the Eden Valley. Now what me and Alice have decided to do is actually break that day up into 2. We're going to do about 12 miles today, I think, and about 7.5 or 8 tomorrow. And the reason why is because we actually want to have a look at all of the historic artefacts and historic monuments, that are on the trail, thank you, along this section. And we feel like if we had to do 20 miles in one day, we wouldn't have time to really explore those ancient ruins. But I'm still going to keep this section down to 1 video, so this video will cover just 2 days of the trail, but 1 day according to the book. So we've just taken a little detour off the coast to coast path to come and check out this lovely ancient monument, and this is the Oddendale Stone Circle. It's actually really easy to kind of navigate to. There's a little path that takes you across to it, and it's a large ancient monument that consists of 2 concentric circles, an outer one of 34 large granite boulders, and then an inner circle right next to me down here, and this is 23 boulders and a cairn in the middle as well, which is a bit unusual for me. I've never seen one like this. Now, this monument hasn't been officially dated, but generally these stone circles date to the late Neolithic or early Bronze Age, and that's about 2000-ish BC, and the location is a prime spot overlooking the vast sweeping Lakeland Fells to the west, and then round this way all the way across the Eden Valley to the Pennines. So where I am at the moment is actually right in the middle of a Roman road that ran sort of southwest to the northeast. I believe in that direction it probably would have gone all the way down to the Roman fort at Kendal, and then if I turn in this direction, I know there's a Roman fort at Kirby Thorpe, which is just down there at the top end of the Eden Valley. And from the air you can just about make out the 2 banks on either side of the road. I'll just show you and highlight the route of the Roman road. And next to it is actually an ancient cairn. There's one right here. Now it looks like this one has been excavated because it's quite hollow. You can see this big depression here in the middle. That means at some point someone's gone in there and dug the thing out to actually have a look and see what was there. And normally there'll be a burial in the middle, maybe some artifacts as well. And they usually date to either the Neolithic or more commonly the Bronze Age as well. So this is definitely a very ancient landscape and lots of historic things to see. So we're just near Crosby Ravensworth Fell, and just over to my left, about 100 metres I think off the path, is another stone circle. So this one is just near White Hag, and it consists of 11 granite boulders in a small circle with some outlying stones, and again dates to roughly the late Neolithic or the Bronze Age. So it's here that we're going to continue along this path past this big boulder, and then over in the direction of Orton. We'll be there relatively soon, I think. So we've just descended down this steep path to the bottom of this dry valley, and about 100 yards just up there around the corner, you can't see it unless you're up here, is Robin Hood's grave. And it's not actually the site where Robin Hood was buried, but it's an ancient cairn, and it's not in its sort of traditional position, normally being on hilltops with really great views. So I don't know why this one is down in the base of this valley. Now in the book, in the Coast to Coast book, it doesn't actually give you any description about the cairn, it just says Robin Hood's grave, and I can't find any information online, so I'm not convinced it's an ancient cairn like a Bronze Age burial mound or anything like that. It's just not in that traditional position. But it could still be there, been there for sort of many hundreds of years. It was certainly there when obviously Wainwright walked this back in the 70s. So we've just stopped on top of this little hill to have some lunch, and the view is absolutely stunning. It's actually little specks of limestone pavement sticking through, but so the view is what really takes the eye. Over there I can see Cross Fells, the highest point in the North Pennines, and then swinging around I can see Great and Little Dunner Fell and the observatory on the top, and then just over here is High Cup Nick. That is an amazing place to visit. Great valley with cliffs running all the way round. And then if I swing you further around over here, just to the left of these sort of caravans, the fell in the distance, that is 9 Standards Rig. That is where we're going to be very soon. Although we've got to make it to Kirby Stephen first, which is down over in that direction. So we are just above Orton village at the moment. It's just over there. I can see the church just painted in white. And in this field alongside, there's actually an ancient cairn just over there. That's about 17 metres in diameter, height about 1.2 metres, and probably dates to the Bronze Age. It probably would be a burial mound with an absolutely amazing view, actually. Let me show you. Over here are the Howgill Fells. The highest being the Calf. I think it's 676 metres above sea level, and that actually marks all the Yorkshire Dales National Park now. I have been in it since we got to Oddendale. So historically all of the Howgills were outside of the Yorkshire Dales National Park, and they actually expanded the boundary to take in part of the Eden Valley and all of the Howgill Fells. And then to the right I can actually see the glistening traffic over there of the M6, and anything to the right of that is all in the Lake District National Park. That's where the two national parks pretty much butt up against one another. And just round the corner here is also the remains of an ancient lime kiln. When I say ancient, it's probably a few hundred years old, but still a really interesting feature to see. So just in the field over there is another stone circle, and it contains 40 Shap pink granite boulders, all of which have fallen, and one limestone boulder as well. Now it's not particularly well seen from the trail, but you can walk down and have a look through one of the gates over there. And it probably dates to, again, the late Neolithic or early Bronze Age, so around 4,000 to 4,500 years ago.
So the sign has just said we are only 1.5 miles from Smaardale Bridge, and I think it's actually just down in this valley over here, and the view where I am at the moment is actually really, really good. Now this big lump of a fell over here is wild boar fell, and you can tell it is because of this left-hand corner. It's quite a distinctive little edge, and then round to the left is High Seat, and then between that is the Malastang Valley, and then up ahead behind the wall way over there, that is actually 9 Standards Rig, and that's what we're going to be going up after we've stopped at Kirby Stephen for the night. So we're just approaching Smaardale Bridge, and in this field alongside you can see earthworks of several ancient settlements, and you can see it very clearly from the air here. But this settlement is Romano-British, so around 2,000 plus years old. And it covers an area of about 3 acres with numerous hut circles and also cattle enclosures. And there's also another ancient settlement that I'll see a bit later on, just as I make my way over towards Kirby Stephen. So we're just beginning, I think, our final descent pretty much down in towards Kirby Stephen, and I've got this lovely view in front over towards the North Pennines, and I think the pointed peak just in the shade over there is Dufton Pike, more than likely. It's got quite a distinctive shape, Dufton Pike, and it's definitely in the right direction towards Crossfell. And over in this direction there's a ruined lime kiln, and I know there's a couple marked on the map, so we saw one just on a quarry near Smaardale Bridge as well. You look down onto a quarry and you can see some old lime kilns and stuff there. But I reckon another maybe hour, something like that, hour and 15 minutes, we should be down into Kirby Stephen. So we have just passed under the railway line. There's a little tunnel there that you go through, and there is another ancient settlement right by the path. Actually, I can see some more earthworks on my left. Look around here. You can see a nice big circular enclosure there. And then on this side, another one. This is a big wall that goes round towards the railway line. And apparently, I think on this side, there might be traces of 4 hut circles and other areas like little paddocks and storage areas and stuff like that. It's basically like a farmstead. So imagine what a modern farm is like, where you have the houses, you have other little areas that are fenced off and stuff. So try and imagine something like that, but this one is well over 2,000 years old. I've just stood in a great big pile of cow poo. Great. Anyway, this is also our final, I think, descent down into Kirby Stephen. Probably 2-ish kilometres left to go. So we are just coming to the end of this part of the walk. The town of Kirby Stephen lies just half a kilometre in front of me down this little narrow country lane. So if you've enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit like, hit subscribe, and also ring the bell to keep up to date with future uploads. And I will see you next time. Hello and welcome back to the channel, and welcome back to the Coast to Coast, where we are on day 7 that has begun here at Kirby Stephen. The town is just 5 minutes behind me, and it's going to end in the Yorkshire Dales village of Keld. And this route is about 12.5 miles. That's going to head over 9 standards rig. And with the weather like it is today, I'm hoping for some really, really stunning views of all of the North Pennines across to the Lake District and then down into the Dales itself. So we're now up here on 9 Standards rig, the summit being 661 metres just over there, and only the second point on the entire coast-to-coast route where you actually cross the 2,000 foot contour. And now, these enigmatic cairns, there are 9 of them here. No one really knows what the purpose of them is, but they were built right on the old county boundary, I think between Westmoreland and Yorkshire. So it's possible that they were built to kind of mark the boundary, but it's quite an elaborate county boundary. And in the first mention of these cairns is actually in 1635. And I say no one actually knows when they were originally built, and they have had some restoration works done in recent years, but this marks the point where we're going to head south along 9 Standards rig up to the trig point. I say it's 661 metres, and then we're going to decide on our route. Now, for the time of year, we are actually going to be taking the blue route, which goes down towards Whitsunndale. But with yesterday's rain, so we had an awful lot of rain yesterday, did no walking, I imagine it's going to be a little bit wet underfoot. So the trig point here, so I said 661, it's actually 662 metres above sea level. And I can look back over to the 9 Standards, looking amazing in this absolutely gorgeous late afternoon sunlight. And it's here, or on this side of the hill, that marks a rather important threshold, and that is the watercourse. So everything on my right drains down to the Irish Sea where we've come from. Everything on my left drains to the North Sea. So that was an epic bog fest as we came down from 9 Standards rig, and there's actually a really nice path to start with. It was a bit misleading. It was beautifully slabbed across probably the boggiest sections, and then as soon as it stops it turns into a bog fest, and we were bog trotting for a couple of miles. But we're actually down now on the side of Whitsunndale. So this valley here on my left is Whitsunndale, and the beck is just meandering its way along the valley floor. And this path is going to lead down to a sheepfold. Now, I can make it out over here somewhere, and that's where we are, actually down by the river. I'm going to follow that for about 2 miles to the south, and then round towards Ravenseat. There's a farm there, and I think usually it's open for like teas and cakes and things, but I'm pretty sure it's closed at the moment. I don't know the reason why, but I'm pretty sure it is closed. And then we're going to leave Ravenseat and make the final, I think, 3 miles or so into Keld. So we've probably got 5 or 6 left. I make it, we're about 6.5 miles in today. The time has just gone 4 o'clock. We started really late today, but yeah, it's now 4 o'clock. 3 hours probably of daylight left. So it's going to be dark by the time we get to Keld, I reckon, but it's been a stunning day. This weather is just breathtaking. It's cold in the wind, but beautifully warm. Probably 18 or 20 degrees in the sun. So we're just on the footpath above Cotterby Scar, and that's a limestone cliff that literally just sits down on my right, but from where I am I can't see it. And Wainwrights, I think it is just down here as well. It's not far. Again, you can't really see it from this path, which is a bit of a shame, but in about, I think, 800 metres, I'm going to be joining the road that's going to cross over the River Swale, and then I'm going to follow the road down into Keld. And if you have enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit like, hit subscribe, and also ring the bell to keep up to date with future uploads, and I'll see you in the next part. Hello and welcome back to the Coast to Coast, where I'm on day 8 of this amazing trail, and I'm now crossing this very broad sort of river swale. And today it starts here at Keld. Keld is just up the footpath here, and the end of today is going to be Reith, which is about 11 miles. And I'm actually going to have a quick look at these beautiful waterfalls that I've just spotted through the trees first, before heading up towards I think it's Swinnergill Beck, and then over towards Gunnerside Gill. We're going up into the moors first, up into mining country, where we're going to see lots of ruins of sort of mining buildings. There'll be tunnels and stuff going in, and it's going to be a really, really interesting and very different day to what we've experienced before. But first things first, the waterfalls of Keld.
So that was an absolutely gorgeous little surprise. I wasn't expecting to be able to see the waterfall right next to the path. And that was just lovely. And we're now on the bridleway that leads up towards Crackpot Hall. And just speaking about things that are beautiful, last night we were extremely lucky because just before going to bed, pitch black sky as you'd expect here, we were treated to a really nice display of the Northern Lights, including, you could see them with the naked eye. You could see this large glow of red over towards Richmond direction, and then as you kind of scanned across the sky, across the north, there were these beautiful shafts of green light just jutting up into the sky, and the display lasted about half an hour or 40 minutes. It was really, really nice. So we're up here at Crackpot Hall, and as you can see, most of the building is just a ruin, although this section here has been restored a little bit, and I think it's used as like a cow house now, because when you go inside the roof looks like it's going to collapse again. But I believe in the 70s when Wainwright did this route, this building had no roof, so they've done some sort of restoration or renovation works. And I can't quite work out exactly what it was. It looks like it was probably an old farm to start with, because I mean, what an amazing view to start with. What a place to have a house. But there's also sort of terraced gardens that look like here. These are walled in sections with steps going down, perhaps. Or with all the massive mining works behind, look up here. Look at all the spoil heaps up there. Perhaps it was just a building associated with the mining. But to have a name of Crackpot Hall suggests to me that it was a bit more of a posher residence, rather than just a mining house or mining building. But anyway, here we are going up past another building, I think up there, and then up onto the moortop. So we're here at Swinnergill Lead Mines, and there is a beautiful waterfall just down here, and then just below that there's a level that goes straight into the hillside. I don't know where that comes out, but I think possibly the other side, near Gunnerside. But basically this was all area of lead mining up here. You can see where nature hasn't regrown, and there's actually a few buildings up there we didn't notice. I think one up here, possibly another over there, all very ruined, and then a couple of buildings here as well. Let me show you. I've got a small hut here, clear fireplace still in situ, only a small square building,
probably only like 3 meters square. And then we've got another miners building just here. Look at this, impressive ruin. Definitely a couple of rooms in this one. A large room there, another one here, another doorway, buttressed as well to keep the walls up. Really quite an incredible place here. So we're high up on this moorland plateau now, and we're about 560 meters above sea level, and the view south is just incredible. Over here I can see Great Shunner Fell, and then looking through this valley, I think that could be Whernside, but it's dead in line with Whittle Fell as well, so it could be that. And then over here, the highest point could be Buckton Pike. I don't really know, I've never explored this area of the Yorkshire Dales before. But what I will do is just pop a couple of shots up indicating the peaks that you can see from this wonderful vantage point. So we've descended off the moorland down to the east, down into Gunnerside, and this is Gunnerside Gill down here, and wow, look at that incredible piece of mining archaeology there, or mining history. Over there is Blake's-Waite mine, that's probably part of this, and down here is Gunnerside, and these huge ravines that are cut into the hillside, they're actually hushes, so they dammed water higher up the hillside and then released it to wear away the topsoil to expose the ore veins underneath. Now I think what I'm going to do is descend down to this mine down here, or these ruins, and have some lunch. So we've made it up onto the moortop above Gunner Side, and look how the landscape has changed. It's so desolate up here. It's like being on the moon. And 50 years ago, when the book was published, Wainwright did write that there's not a blade of grass or a sprig of heather. And look, it's just the same pretty much. Nothing has changed. Oh, what an incredible landscape to walk through, but it just shows how damaging that lead is to nature and the environment. So we're just passing Old Gang Smelting Mill, and this is probably the most impressive of all of the sort of mining relics and ruins that we've seen on the entire trail. And it's here that we've got about 4 miles or so to continue down into Reeth. So we're finally beginning our descent down into Reeth. I think there's less than a mile to go. This trackway that we're following is going to go around to a little lane that just descends straight down into the village. It's been an absolutely beautiful day. Incredible history with all of those mines. An incredible variety of landscapes as well. Like vast open moor, desolate wastelands on the top, deep ravines, waterfalls. It's been a really good day. If you've enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit like, hit subscribe, and also ring the bell to keep up to date with future uploads. And I'll see you in the next part.
Hello and welcome back to the channel, and welcome back to the Coast to Coast, where I'm on day 9. That is the part from Reeth, just behind me, to Richmond, which is about 10 or 10 and a half miles. Now this section involves a couple of miles actually of road walking to start with. This little country lane, it seems to be the busiest little country lane I've ever experienced in my life today. But then we're going to head over towards Marrick Priory. Hopefully we'll see the gorgeous ruins there, and then up and over a little hill towards Marske. And then we're going to go up and over, I think, another little hill towards a lovely section of woodland, which then descends down into Richmond. So the weather this morning is actually really nice. It's cold, it's about 5 degrees, but there's a weather front coming in around 1 o'clock, so fingers crossed we actually managed to complete this section before the rain. I don't want to rush it, but I also don't want to get completely soaked. So just behind me over here is the site of Marrick Priory, and you can still see the magnificent church. Now I think the church actually dates to the 15th century, but the priory itself was founded in the 12th century, I think somewhere around 1154. And it's now actually been converted, some of the buildings anyway, into an outdoor education centre. So we're down in this little valley now, tucked between the village of Marrick and Marske, and I could see right across to the surrounding hills. It was absolutely beautiful views from the top of the valley, and I could see across to Hutton's monument as well, which is I think a 60-foot high pillar. So far the walking has been absolutely delightful. We've just crossed this little stream which runs past a beautiful farm called Ella's, and I think we are only a mile from Marske now. We're actually going to sit there for 10 minutes and have some lunch. That's roughly halfway, I think, on this section to Richmond, maybe even slightly more. I have spotted a very negative point, and that is a cow field up ahead. Not happy about that. There's been no cows so far. Of course, I had to bump into some large cattle on the walk. So just beginning our steep descent along the road now into Marske. And there is a beautiful historic bridge that dates to the 15th century. There's the lovely church of St Edmund, King and Martyr, which is Grade 2 star listed and dates to the 12th century, and even has this beautiful 12th century arched doorway. And it's there we're just going to have a little bit of a rest for 10 or 15 minutes
but there's definitely been a noticeable change in the air. It's cooled down a lot, and I think the rain is inbound. So we've made it up the steep side of the valley. We came from Mask, which I can just make out the rooftops over there, across these fields, down over a bridge, over a stream, and then up this steep side of the valley to enjoy this epic view. The River Swale just trickling its way down there, much broader, racing downhill, and just such an incredible view. This is now the track that I'm going to follow for the next couple of kilometres into, I think it's Whitcliffe Wood. So we're not far from Whitcliffe Wood. And in fact, this limestone escarpment up on my left is Whitcliffe Scar. And just below that, it's actually the site of a Romano-British settlement. So this site was occupied sometime sort of maybe 200 BC up into 200 AD. So it overlaps the Roman invasion and was occupied prior and during that time. And this settlement actually has two rectangular enclosures that are separated by a deep hollow way and actually offer incredibly commanding views right up and down Swaledale. So we left Whitcliffe Wood just a few hundred metres back and treated to this glorious view. Look at that, I can see the castle keep in Richmond down here, and then way off in the distance, the North Yorkshire moors. We will be there in a couple of days' time, but for now, let's descend down to Richmond and enjoy some of the historic treats that the town has to offer. We have begun our final descent down into Richmond now. I can see the houses on the edge of the town just down here, and the Norman Keep is just getting closer and closer. Absolutely incredible. If you have enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit like, hit subscribe, and also ring the bell to keep up to date with future uploads, and I will see you in the next part. Hello and welcome back to the channel, and welcome back to the Coast to Coast, where I'm on part 10, which begins here at Richmond. This is the River Swale alongside me, and you might be able to see glimpses of it through the trees. Richmond Castle is just up there, and actually we had enough time yesterday afternoon to really enjoy those ruins. Firstly, in the rain that we managed to miss all day yesterday, and then the rain came in and we were inside the keep at the time. Wind was howling and then the sun came out, so we managed to enjoy the rest of the place in the sunshine, and also visited the beautiful waterfalls that are just down up ahead, actually, over here on my left. I can hear them, I can't see them because it's flowing downriver that way. So this section here I'm going to film over 2 days. I'm going to include it as one video because neither me nor Alice really fancy doing 23 miles in a day. So what we're doing is about 13 or so miles, I think, to Danby Wisk. And then tomorrow we're going to do Danby Wisk to Ingleby Arncliffe. So we're breaking this one long flat section over 2 days. Our legs are feeling a little bit sore, so I think we're going to appreciate the slightly shorter days. And then after that we're hitting the Cleveland Hills, so hopefully we'll be nice and rested, not too exhausted before we hit the mighty Cleveland Hills. So I'm just leaving Richmond at the moment, and the way markings actually show me to follow the road out of the town rather than the old railway line, which sits just parallel to me over there. But I have had a little view of St Martin's Priory. It's a scheduled ancient monument, and the upstanding remains are Grade 1 listed, and actually dates back to the 12th century. And there was a little view of the Priory Church as well, which was really nice. So I'm hoping that this parallel path is actually going to join up with the original route very soon. We're just close to Brompton-on-Swale at the moment. It's just the other side of the river, over in that direction. And this field actually marks the site of St Giles Hospital. And they're usually kept on the outskirts of towns and villages because of infectious diseases like leprosy. And this site here was founded probably around the late 12th century, although there's no exact record saying when it was constructed. And there are definitely some earthworks in the fields of sort of square enclosures. And I think I can also see some medieval kind of ridge and furrow. Look here, you've got multiple ridges and furrows over there. So now we're going through some grazing fields. There's lots of cows. Mostly they seem to be in the fields alongside. Fingers crossed they stay over there and not in the fields I'm walking through. We're going to be going, I think, under the A1 very soon. I'm going to go around this nice wet boggy bit and then over towards Bolton on Swale. And I think we're going to stop there for a good 15 or 20 minutes, have a spot of lunch. It's about 11:30 now. We've done almost 7 kilometres today. So we've arrived here at Catterick Bridge, and the old medieval bridge is just here. Now, originally I think the first one was built in 1422, and then it was pretty much rebuilt in 1565, and it's currently a Grade 2 star listed building. I'm actually going to head straight over the top of it, so I'll be able to get a better look very soon. So we're just a few hundred metres away from Bolton on Swale, where we're going to stop for a little bit of lunch. But we've said our goodbyes to the River Swale itself. It sits probably 800 metres over there. We're not going to see the River Swale anymore. And where I am at the moment is Bolton on Swale Nature Reserve, which is owned by the Yorkshire Wildlife Trust. And it's actually a series of gravel pits that have been flooded. There's an enormous lake behind the trees, full of wildlife. I can see loads of geese, some swans and stuff down there. And then there's another enormous lake here. Really nice that they're returning this to nature, whereas hundreds of years ago, whenever they dug these enormous gravel pits, just spotted a kestrel flying off, sorry. So yeah, when they dug these gravel pits, this would have been an industrial site, void of all wildlife. So we just had some lunch here at the Church of St Mary in Bolton on Swale, and this is a lovely Grade 2 star listed building that dates back to the 14th century. But there certainly was occupation here way before then, because inside there is a part of an Anglo-Danish cross. Now, it's not been dated, but it could be anywhere between sort of 7th or 9th century. And just the other side of the tower is the memorial to Henry Jenkins, which Wainwright has written a little piece about, who apparently lived to 169 years old. So that was a rather long 23.5 kilometres to Danby Wisk, but we've just arrived here. This is the Church of St Mary, and it's grade 1 listed. I've decided to stop here because this whole south wall, and there's an arch as well, dates to the 12th century, and it is a beautiful, beautiful historic building. I'm going to stop here overnight and then continue, I think, the final 9 miles or so to Ingleby Arncliffe. So we're back on the trail now, and we've just left Danby Wisk. It is a very fresh morning. It's about 3 degrees, but it is beautiful. Not a cloud in the sky today, and tomorrow was meant to be the same as well, but now it's showing cloud. I was really excited to do the Cleveland Hills in the sunshine, but hopefully it'll change, you never know. Fingers crossed. At least it's going to be dry. But yeah, so they've got about 8 miles-ish today from Danby Wisk to Ingleby Arncliffe, and then we've crossed the notorious Vale of Mowbray. And you know, there are a lot of comments saying that it's not the most enjoyable section, and actually I really enjoyed the bit from Richmond to Bolton-on-Swale, but then beyond that there is pretty much nothing except fields for a good 7.5 miles, and that was a little bit boring compared to the rest of the trail. But I don't know what this part's going to be like. We'll just kind of see what we see as we make our way towards Ingleby. So we successfully navigated our way across the A19, which was absolutely horrible. Roaring traffic going 70 miles an hour and no clear place to cross except the break in the central reservation, and that's a junction as well, so very unpleasant. But it marks our final short stretch of about 600 metres into Ingleby Arncliffe. I've got the Cleveland Hills standing in front of me, waiting for us to walk over them tomorrow. So pray for some nice weather. Now, if you have enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit like, hit subscribe, and also ring the bell to keep up to date with future uploads, and I will see you in the next part. Hello and welcome back to the channel, and welcome back to the Coast to Coast, where I'm on part 11, which begins at Ingleby Arncliffe, which is just behind me here. We've actually just passed the Church of All Saints, which is a Grade 2 star listed building that dates to 1821, but it was actually built on the site of a medieval church, and it incorporates some older elements. And alongside is Arncliffe Hall, a beautiful country house that's Grade 1 listed and dates to 1753. So this section is about 11 or 12 miles. That's going to head over the Cleveland Hills, numerous peaks, all the way to Claybank Top. So we've made it up onto the 299 metre summit of Beacon Hill, with the true point just the other side of the fence here. And the view east looking along the Cleveland Hills is absolutely gorgeous. Unfortunately very murky today, but at least it's dry. And the view to the left unfortunately is restricted because of the tree coverage, but we had a good view the other side of the TV transmission station, which is behind, and hopefully we'll get some more views as we descend down this first of many hills. There's about half a dozen hills today. So we're beginning our ascent up Live Moor, which is just before Carlton Moor. And although not on the Ordnance Survey map, there is actually a historic feature here. So I can see a little platform just here, which is the darker green. It's very visible from the air. That's actually the site of an Iron Age promontory fort. And what these forts used to do was use the natural steep slopes of the hillside as a defensive side, and then build an enormous bank and ditch around the side that's not as easily protected. And it's an unusual location for an Iron Age fort because normally they sit on the summit of hills, this one being below the summit, so any attackers could effectively attack from this side, but that's why I imagine they probably built an enormous bank and ditch on this side to kind of defend off any attackers. And as I'm making my way up this hill, I've just got a lovely view of Carlton Moor, the peak just over here. That's where we're heading to next. That's 408 metres up there. So we're on the top of Live Moor now at 315 metres above sea level, and there is an ancient monument here. In fact, this whole landscape is littered with ancient relics. This one in particular is a Bronze Age barrow that's been dated to about 2000 BC, so over 4,000 years old. And there are numerous cairns like this dotted amongst the landscape as I make my way over towards Carlton End and then further along the Cleveland Hills. So here's the 408 metre summit of Carlton Moor, and the weather is really starting to set in. The view is still pretty good to the left, but look across to Kringle Moor, can't remember. Just ahead over there, it's definitely touching the cloud now, and there's the feeling of rain in the air. But I'm going to go down to this country park in front and have a spot of lunch. As you can see, the weather has changed considerably, and I think this drizzle and rain has kind of set in now for the afternoon. And it wasn't even forecast to rain, which is pretty rubbish. Up ahead, I've got Crinkle Moor. That is completely in the clouds, so I expect no views by the time we get up there. But we've only got about 3.5 miles left of today before we get to Claybank Top. Hopefully you can hear me over the wind, but where I am is Kringle Moor at the moment. The summit is 432 metres, sits up in the cloud behind me. There is a path there. I thought, what was the point? You couldn't see anything. And this would be where I'd get an epic view looking down towards things like Rosebery Topping and Hasty Bank and the Wainstones. Nothing like that today. So we're now on the 402 metre summit of Broughton Bank, which is our penultimate summit today. We're going to head down the east side of this hill
and then up to Hasty Bank via the Wainstones. And again, the cloud base is at about 300 metres, so we've got a bit of a view down the bottom before heading up here, and we may get a view just when we get down between here and Hasty Bank, but I'm not feeling hopeful. Here at the Wainstones, which sits at the very western edge of Hasty Bank, which is our last summit before we descend down to Claybank Top, and as expected we are in the cloud, but we've got some nice views over to some awesome rock formations and also down the edge a little bit over here as well. Such an amazing place. It's just a shame we can't enjoy the longer distance views because of the cloud. Now, I've been to Hasty Bank and the Wainstones on a nice day, and this is what it would have looked like if it was like that today. So we're just making our final descent now down the side of Hasty Bank down to Claybank Top. And if you have enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit like, hit subscribe, and also ring the bell to keep up to date with future uploads. And I'll see you in the next part. Hello and welcome back to the Coast to Coast, where we are on part 12 that has left Claybank Top just a few hundred metres behind, and it is going to be going a full-on 18.5 miles all the way to Glaisdale. But I'm breaking it down into more manageable sections in my head anyway, where I just have to get up onto Urramore and then follow the nice flat tram line all the way to the Line Inn, and that's where I'm going to take a bit of a break. And then is the final probably 8 or 9 miles down Glaisdale Rig into Glaisdale. So it's just gone 8:30 in the morning, and we reckon we've probably got about 8 hours of daylight today. So yeah, it's going to be cutting it fine probably, but we've just had a massive storm come over yesterday, so there's still the remnants of it. It's meant to be raining all morning up until lunchtime, and there's 60-mile-an-hour gusts. We're a bit sheltered, said that at the wrong time. We're a bit sheltered where we are at the moment, but up on the top it's going to be really, really windy. So this here is the trig point of 454 metres on Urramore, and this is actually the highest point in the entire North York Moors National Park. There's actually a really nice view looking back across the Cleveland Hills over there where we've been already, and then from here I'm trying to see if I can work out where the Lion Inn is. It should be over that way somewhere. It is so windy up here. Where I am is just a tiny bit sheltered, but literally by that trig point the gusts are 50-60 miles an hour. Is now picked up the line of the old railway that used to run along the contours of the top of the moors here, which opened in 1854, and I think it was called the Rosebery Branch Line. I'm not 100% sure on its name, but just down here you can see the whole valley of Farndale, and by the looks of it, a bit of rain down there, but I think that's passed already because the wind's coming from that way. Just past the Lion Inn and we're about 15 kilometres in today, and I think today's about 27, so we're maybe halfway, just over, and as you can tell the weather's just deteriorated badly. It's so windy, it's so wet. We're following the road to try and pick up the head of Fryupdale and then down Glaisdale Rig. Pushing on through the storm and arrived here at Fat Betty, and it's here that we are going to do a bit more road walking. There's about probably a mile and a half of road walking. Just going to jump across this stream again. Ooh. And we have braved the storm. Honestly, we've had hail, 60-mile-an-hour winds at the same time, absolutely awful conditions, and it's meant to be improving. You see, only fell over then, and it really isn't. So I think the wind's died down a fraction, so we're heading over towards Fryupdale now and then down Glaisdale Rig. So we just nipped over to the 326 metre summit of Glaisdale Rig. There is an Ordnance Survey trig point on the top, and the coast to coast literally sits just 50 metres over here. So we took a little detour to take in the trig point, and now we're heading back to the trail. And over to my left I can see Glaisdale Rig, which there's a very broad track all the way down to Glaisdale, which, as it says on the sign, 2.5 miles. So less than an hour hopefully, and we'll be down. Descending down into Glaisdale, about half a mile left and we'll be in the village centre, thank God, because today's been a hard day. We're at nearly 29 kilometres and it's just been the worst weather, fighting 50 or 60 mile an hour winds. But if you have enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit like, hit subscribe, and also ring the bell to keep up to date with future uploads, and I'll see you in the final part. Hello and welcome back to the Coast to Coast, where I've just left the village of Glaisdale and arrived here at this beautiful bridge here. This is Beghaus Bridge. It was built in 1619, and it's possible that it actually incorporates some of a 14th century crossing that collapsed here in 1577, and it is a scheduled ancient monument and a grade 2 star listed building. And today's part of the Coast to Coast technically finishes at Robin Hood's Bay, but what we're going to do is we're going to break this 19-mile section down and we're going to stop at Horsker, and that's actually what's recommended in the book, that you do about 15 miles or so to Horsker, stop there, and then do the last 4 miles tomorrow morning, which is just a beautiful walk along the cliff tops down to Robin Hood's Bay. But today's going to be a very varied day. We've got valleys to walk through. We're going down to Egton Bridge and then over to Gromont, and just heading under this viaduct, very echoey. And then we're going up and over the moors down to Littlebeck, check out the waterfall there, and then up and over again, I think, towards Horsker. So we have just left Gromont and starting our
I think 250 metre ascent up the side of the valley. And as you saw by the sign, it's a 1 in 3, which is incredibly steep. We're probably about 120 metres up here above sea level, and the view is really starting to open out behind. Obviously, the higher we get, the better the view will get as well. And there's a really important landmark up ahead, and that is when we get up onto Flat Howe, we'll be able to see the North Sea for the first time. So we've made it up the steep road up onto Flat Howe, and just alongside the coast to coast in this field here, there are a couple of standing stones and fallen stones which date all the way back to the Bronze Age, so about 4,000 years ago. And this here is hybrid stones. And Mike, there is a little path that goes down. Have a little look and see what stones I can see before going over the other side of the hill. So if you can hear me, the wind is really howling up here, but we are heading over Flat Howe. The summit is just over there at 290 metres. There's a Bronze Age burial mound right on the top. And historically, that's where the route used to go, but it has actually been diverted just slightly further down the road and along this new path, over towards the main road, which you followed briefly, and before turning off towards Littlebeck, which is 2 miles away. And that is where we're going to probably stop, have some lunch by Falling Foss waterfall, and then leave the last third or quarter, whatever's left, for the rest of the day. But this is a milestone here, my first proper view looking east towards the North Sea. Now I could see it briefly from the road up from Gromont, but this is where the book mentions you can see the rest of the walk properly. Robin Hood's Bay, I believe, is over these cliffs over here somewhere, and I can just make out Whitby Abbey over there. God, that wind chill is freezing. So this is the village of Littlebeck, and it is absolutely gorgeous, tucked right down in the base of this little valley. And we've just joined Littlebeck itself. This is the stream alongside, and it's about 1¼ miles to Falling Foss. And that is where we are going to stop for some lunch. We are about 14, I think, almost 14 kilometres in, and probably 10 kilometres left to go until we get to Horsker. So it's actually going to be a really nice place to have some lunch and rest up for a bit, and then the last quarter up to Horsker. So we crossed what seemed like absolutely miles of this vast, open and quite featureless heather moorland to arrive at the road here on the edge of Horsker. And according to the sign, it's only 1.25 miles to the village centre. And that is where we are going to stop for the night. And then I'm going to resume tomorrow morning to do the final 4.5 miles down into Robin Hood's Bay. And oh, I'm so excited just to do this last little bit. There is enough daylight to do it today, but both me and Alice want to feel quite fresh. We want to spend a bit of time down in the village just to celebrate crossing the entire country. So it's just gone 8:30 in the morning. Horsker sits just 1/4 mile behind me, and we are about to head through the caravan park that literally leads us right up to the cliff tops by the North Sea. I can see it sprawling out in front of me. It's really exciting to be here. And this is the last 3.25 miles to Robin Hood's Bay. And here we are now at the coastal path where we've rejoined the Cleveland Way. And the view in front is absolutely breathtaking. We have officially walked right across northern England. But it's time to do our little lap of honour, which mirrors that at St Bees Head, where we're going to follow the cliff tops for a couple of miles down into Robin Hood's Bay. So we are just a few minutes away from Robin Hood's Bay now, and we've had our first view of this gorgeous little Yorkshire village. And it's time to head through the village itself and right down to the sea.
So we've arrived down here at the sea now in Robin Hood's Bay, and the village is beautiful as you follow the road just winding through all the houses. We have thrown our stones in the sea to conclude our 192-mile trek across the whole of northern England. It has been absolutely incredible, with many memories, many stories to tell for the future.